Chapter 7 begins with Doc Brown at home, wearing his latest invention and trying to guess what card he's put on the table in front of him. It's his brainwave analyzer, remember? This thing. And, spoiler alert, when Marty shows up he tries to read his mind just like in the movie. But before that happens, he's hanging out by himself, wearing his invention, and what he's doing with cards literally makes no sense. His invention is for reading minds, and it's absolutely specified as doing this in this book. I checked, so why the hell is he testing it by picking cards at random, face down, and trying to figure out what card he has? That information isn't in his mind, and mind reading is totally useless here. Either the author is dumb or he's decided to write Doc as dumb, and at this point I don't know who to believe anymore. Anyway, Gipe helpfully reminds us of some plot point things by having Doc realize that maybe the mind reader isn't working because he had fallen while hanging a clock in his bathroom. The fall generated something going in his mind which prompted him to write for several hours. When he was finished and reread the notes, he was sure a breakthrough had been scored in the realm of time travel. These notes aren't the flux capacitor, remember? But rather sketches of the DeLorean, as a car. And also he apparently worked on them non-stop while also working on talking to dogs. I have been calling this version of Marty Book Marty, but I may be forced to call this version of Doc Crappy Doc. This is the thing, he is a crappy doc. I'm barely sure how what Crappy Doc thought.
The fall generated something going in his mind.
He's grammatical, but whatever, Crappy Doc. You have a head wound. Marty knocks on the door and finally Doc and Marty meet. What does Doc do?
Doc almost clapped his hands in sheer delight, for Marty was clad in a shirt that was illustrated with a blow-up of a patent office entry. How this appealed to the heart of a frustrated and neglected and a much maligned inventor can easily be imagined.
Yes. You and I thought that patent shirt line was just a wasted sentence in a book swimming in them. But we was wrong. There is payoff, such as it is. Anyway, that sentence I bolded is a bit jarring, because it's switching the voice of the novel into a weird storytelling mode where he's straight up telling us what to imagine, like this is Gipe telling us this story around the campfire, and of course that voice hasn't shown up yet and I'm pretty sure we won't see it again. Enjoy it while it lasts, okay? Like in the movie, Doc tries to read Marty's mind and fails. But here he starts by guessing Marty's name.
Peter Danforth, Evan Wentworth, Jr., Melvin Petruzzi.
All those are Facebook links to real people with those names. None of them know they are named after characters in this scrappy book. SHH, nobody tell them it's too mean, before moving on to why he's here.
You want me to buy a subscription to the Saturday Evening Post?
Then Doc fairly screams the words.
Peanut brittle. That's it. You're selling peanut brittle for the Boy Scouts.
And you guys, this is a callback to that first scene at home. I bet you didn't expect peanut brittle to play such an integral role, did you? Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, I'm blowing your mind right now with all this peanut brittle action. Yeah, you like it. Doc ends this page with,
"Are you here because you want to use the bathroom?"
And it's the perfect ending to this page, so let us leave it here because I kinda do have to use it actually. Page 116 to 117. So Marty does his
I came here in a time machine that you invented.
line, and in the movie Doc says,
It means that this damn thing doesn't work at all.
but in the book Crappy Doc says that line and then destroys the helmet by tearing it off and throwing it to the ground where it shatters into pieces with glass and plastic flying everywhere.
6 months labor for nothing. Where did I go wrong? Doc Brown.
You know, this reminds me of my science class days, where whenever an experiment gave results we didn't expect, we'd all trash the lab and start from scratch too. Memories. Anyway, Book Marty is a future dick again and tells Doc he's never going to get his brainwave analyzer to work. Who says so? Doc says, I do. Marty says, because he's from the future and he knows, But Marty tells Doc that on the plus side, he's going to invent the time travel machine. Yes. That's the hilariously awkward thing we're calling it now, I guess. All of a sudden? Doc, are you telling me you built the time travel machine out of a DeLorean? This book, all of a sudden. Marty then tries to convince him he's from the future and goes all out. He pulls out his driver's license, library card, a new piece of money, and his family picture.
Look at this $20 bill.
He says, and yeah, that's what's there in the book, dollar, D-O-L-L-O-R. So, not only was this book not edited, it wasn't even proofread. But I can see why. Proofreading can cost upwards of $20. Doc shrugs and says that the photograph is pretty fake because they cut his brother's head off, and Marty thrusts the picture back in his wallet without looking at it. Page 118. In the movie, a suspicious Doc asks who the president is in 1985 and then scoffs at the answer.
Ronald Reagan, the actor? Then who's vice president? Jerry Lewis? I suppose Jane Wyman is a first lady.
Whoa, wait, Doc!
And Jack Benny is secretary of the treasury.
Jane, I'm afraid we'll have to catch up later, because in the book we've got tons of words to get through before we get to that point in the story, because someone involved in writing this book is way big into sports. Remember how the first thing Marty did when he went back in time was listen to sports radio and crack sports jokes? Well, here comes a sports history lesson.
Doc, all right, future boy. Let me give you a little test. Who's going to win the 1956 World Series?
Aside, how is this a test? Doc doesn't know the answer. We are in 1955, so again this test proves nothing. This is not science, this is bad writing that makes me angry and confused/sad.
Marty, I don't know. That was almost 30 years ago. Doc, no, it's 1 year in the future.
And here Doc realizes that from Marty's perspective it'd be in the past. Crappy Doc is a bit slow too, I guess. He continues, and we get to learn which baseball teams our heroes like, so start reformatting some neurons because you'll want to remember these fun facts.
Doc, all right. I'm a Brooklyn fan. How many pennants and World Series do they win during the 1960s and 1970s? Marty, I don't think they win any. Brooklyn's not even in the league. Doc, no bums?
Real life question. Why would any league move or rename a team called the Brooklyn Bums? Because that is amazing.
Marty, the Miracle Mets won an exciting World Series in 1969. But I'm a San Diego Padres fan. I like the Chargers too.
Then they talk about football and name teams and blah blah blah, and oh my god, if you want to show the differences between two time periods, there's so many better things you could land on than names of sports teams. For one, something other than sports wouldn't alienate the non-trivial percentage of your audience who don't know or care what teams were named in history times. Talk about stuff you can expect your audience to know. Like, oh, I don't know who the president is. Wait, hold on a second, Doc's saying something.
Who's gonna be president of the United States in 1985?
Doc finally asks. Cliffhanger ending. Come back tomorrow to find out who it is. No checking Wikipedia or your memory because that is called cheating.